Hello and welcome to this episode of Ask the YAs. This week we're going to focus on loneliness. A YouGov survey in 2019 found that young people are much more likely to feel lonely than older people, with 31% of 18 to 24-year-olds saying they felt lonely often or all of the time, compared to 17% of over 55s. 7% of 18 to 24-year-olds said they felt affected by loneliness every day, compared to just 2% of older people. Now, not to say that older people aren't affected by loneliness, more so now than ever before, but loneliness is something that really affects young people. So our young ambassadors are going to share their experience, talk about the misconceptions and share some advice. Abby.
So I think with loneliness, the big thing that comes with young people is that because of social media, we seem and maybe at first feel so much more connected to everyone, whereas actually that can make us a lot more lonely because we're not physically with someone and maybe they aren't real friendships or real bonds that you've created. And so turning around and saying maybe to like your mother, oh, I'm actually like really lonely because you're not spending time with anyone. And they're just like, well, you're always on that phone talking to people. It's not the same as actually having like a physical connection with someone and just sat in the park talking. They're two very, very different things. And the idea that we are always so connected is actually probably creating more loneliness, I feel, because we're not actually connected.
Yeah, I think like technology can sort of like fill in the gaps when you do feel lonely as well. Like I found myself watching YouTube videos or like binge watching Netflix when I felt particularly lonely, and I think it's just like having like voices of people that has kind of filled in the gaps but still not really been a good replacement for like having real human contact. Yeah.
Social media just kind of changes the context of interaction, if you know what I mean. Like it's sort of the weight shifts on spending time with people to just staying in touch with people, and the importance. There's just a big difference really between the two.
Have there been particular points where you think you felt particularly lonely that you'd like to share?
University, I guess, starting off there, because you don't know anybody in an entirely different city. It can be quite challenging at first.
Yeah, same. Definitely at university and in halls. I think everyone has like a really different halls experience, and I know some who had like really friendly halls and made loads of friends really quickly, but I definitely didn't have the same experience. Everyone sort of like stayed in their room, and I knew some people who like dropped out because of this, because they just didn't want to kind of like spend all their time in their room, especially since not everyone makes friends from their course as well, and it can be difficult if you have like a big lecture theatre full of people. There isn't much opportunity to like talk and chat and get to know people. So yeah, I've definitely experienced it at uni.
I definitely remember that actually the first day. You know, you meet everyone and then everyone's like, oh, let's go to our rooms and unpack and set up, and you close your bedroom door. And I remember that sort of very heavy feeling of loneliness descending, like, okay, I'm on my own now. And that, you know, for some people that feeling lasts all the time throughout their university experience, and for some people, like you say, make friendships very quickly. I wondered whether you had any experience of feeling lonely in terms of your mental health, in that, so when I really struggled with my mental health, I remember feeling lonely because I felt alone in my experiences of how, in my mental health, I felt that no one else was feeling the same as I was, and that made me feel quite lonely. I wondered if anyone else has felt something similar, and if you can share anything about that.
You do get into like the headspace that you're the only person that feels this and it's just something different, and because it's not talked about much amongst young people, it can sort of make it feel like it's an only you problem.
That's a lonely place to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
Abby?
I definitely remember feeling like alone a lot, but then I didn't help because I felt alone and that no one would understand how I was feeling. I made myself more alone by doing that. Like I would just shut people out, and then I was more lonely because then I wasn't interacting with anyone. So I kind of made it worse myself, but without realizing at the time, but then I thought, well, if I tell them, they're going to think I'm stupid, so they're going to leave me alone anyway, so I might as well shut them out before they do it, which was not a good thing to do because they did actually care and want to help.
Yeah, I definitely found that like during sort of like, yeah, with my mental health, I do have a tendency to isolate and shut myself out, and also have like after any kind of like social interaction, have like negative thought patterns of like, oh, that went really bad, or like they must not like me anymore, and then that would just like further the loneliness even more and like make myself isolate more. So yeah, I think if I had some kind of like support with that, or any kind of I guess knowing that other people like think the same things as well after like social interactions, and that, yeah, would have been probably really helpful in like avoiding stopping myself from like isolating myself and, yeah, increasing that loneliness more.
So what advice have you got for other young people who are struggling with loneliness? Maybe they feel loneliness all the time or occasionally. What advice can you give them?
Make real plans. Like it's nice to message people and have a phone call and catch up, but make sure that you're putting aside some time to see people in person, because it does make you feel a lot less lonely.
I think having like a routine plan, or like a regular plan, like every, I don't know, Wednesday you make like a Zoom call to have a chat with your friends. I think that's really useful as well, like having it be like a regular solid thing as well. Yeah.
I think it's just finding someone that you trust as well to talk when you are feeling lonely, someone that you know isn't going to be like, well, you're young, you have all these friends, you shouldn't be feeling lonely. Finding someone that's actually going to be like, okay, so how are we like trying to help you find a way to combat those feelings, because you might not work it out on yourself.
I think also particularly at university, joining like societies can be quite useful. People are usually really friendly, and like if you join a society where you'll have the shared common interest, then it's like really easy to start talking to them as well. Yeah.
I think it's always that typical thing of, oh, everyone's in the same boat, but I did find it really helpful to remember that the 7 other people in my corridor were also all behind their door going, oh, okay, I'm alone now. What next? And just being, like Abby said, finding that person that you can be honest with about feeling lonely and asking for help and support to help you through that. It's really important. And if 31% of 18 to 24-year-olds are saying that they feel lonely all of the time or often, then you're really not alone with feeling lonely, and it's all right to speak up about it and ask for help.